Hi, I'm Shilagna. A very warm welcome to all of you to Little Looney. So today we have someone who will be talking about the hits and misses around the heart. So he has traveled around the globe for what he does. He has trained corporates, mental health professionals and beauty pageants for a very long time. So we want to welcome Dr. Shishir Palsapure. Thank you so much for making some time for Little Looney.
Absolutely my pleasure. Hello everyone.
So, Dr. Shishir, we want to talk a little about relationships today. Just want to understand, how do you define relationships?
This is a very poorly defined term. Any two people or more than two people coming in, I would say, contact with each other, they're forming some kind of association can be termed as a relationship, and there could be, I think, 8 billion types of relationships, as many people as there are. So we can say there could be a lot of variety of relationships. However, we can still have some specific types of relationships that we can define.
Yeah, so what are the few broad types of relationships that you would want to categorize?
So if we look at relationships, in fact, we can categorize them broadly into two different types. One is romantic relationships, and other would be non-romantic relationships. And there could be always an overlap between these two. There is no clear mark where this is purely romantic, this is purely non-romantic. There could be an overlap of these, but two broad categories would be romantic and non-romantic.
So how has relationships changed? Like, what was it back 20-30 years back, and what is it now?
So why go 20-30 years back? I think we can go millions of years back, how we formed relationships and why did we actually get into relationships is human beings, as we started socializing, it was primarily for safety. So we wanted to form groups because we had danger from predators, right? And then as we formed groups, there was also danger from other groups where we could have our own resources, like we could have our grain, our meat stored. So it was easier for another group to attack us and then steal this instead of hunting and farming. So we had all kinds of dangers, and therefore we started associating with other groups. And that's how the trust built amongst each other. And then we started having relationships. And these were different forms of relationships. Within that particular group, we would have non-romantic relationships, which is with our parents, with our peers, with our friends, with our supporters. And we also formed romantic relationships with our mates. And that's how the human civilization has evolved. People are a little more open about variety of forms of relationships. And I think some people, some youngsters are very clear about what they want from the relationship. And we also see a growth in people who are not very clear about relationships. So I cannot generalize that everyone has evolved this way. Everyone is different. But we do see that relationship issues have gone up. Like the problems in relationships have gone up.
When you say the problems have gone up, do you think youngsters these days, they are approaching or attempting relationships? The repertoire is very huge these days because it's not you'd have to write letters or emails. There's dating apps where there's a human catalog. You can scroll and it'll never end. Yeah, so do you think you have to say anything about the approach?
Again, I wouldn't say everyone has a wrong approach or a bad approach. The approaches have evolved, and I think it has given, I would say, many plus points. The way we are dating today, the youngsters are dating today, has evolved, and technology has definitely helped them. And a lot of people have been in touch with people that they probably could never have been in touch without the technology. So I'm not against the technology or the way people are dating today. However, we still have healthier and unhealthier ways of associating with people. So I would say that a lot of people who have unhealthy ways of approaching relationships will have significantly higher amount of problems. And there are people who still have healthier ways of approaching a relationship, and they would have significantly lesser issues and greater satisfaction in the relationships.
What do you have to say about love languages? Because there might be two people who are together and maybe they are doing things right. It cannot be like someone is evil and someone is lesser of the evil.
I think, a lot of relationship issues or problems do stem from difference in love language. everyone has a different love language, and how do we learn love language is largely through modeling. We watch other people and then we learn it, right? So where do we see relationships? First we see them at home, right? So a large part of love language is learned or modeled through our parents, and it is very common to see similar love language as parents have, or exactly opposite love language as parents have. So sometimes youngsters would say that I don't want to be like my parents, and they are anti role models for them, and they don't have a love language like their parents. They have a very different love language. As I said, as many people, as many love languages, and they are all based on, one is modeling, and another is again gender. Gender has different love languages, like men have significantly different love language than women do, and also the values that everyone has. For instance, if someone's value is empathy, so they are going to probably be more listening to the other person, and if somebody's value is more of passion and intimacy, so their love language would be more touch rather than communication, right? So it's important to clarify love languages, like this is my love language and this is your love language, not try to change another person's love language.
How do you actually address conflicts? It's very difficult, right? People often give up when they have conflict. The conflict is a very big challenge. It is like, more challenging than your deadlines, maybe, or more challenging than a bad boss, or more challenging than maybe climbing Mount Everest, maybe. But how do you handle conflicts?
Conflicts are inevitable, we have conflicts within ourselves. So conflicts could be value conflict. For instance, I have a value of let's say non-violence, and you don't have that value, and we are friends, so we may have that value conflict. There could be goal conflict. For instance, a couple is in a goal conflict. What do they want first in a relationship? Someone may say that I want money, another says that I want children. So there could be a goal conflict. There could be methods of achieving the goal. That could be a conflict. For instance, we both want money, but the way I want money to gain money is different from the way you want to have money. So there could be goal conflict, there could be a path conflict, there could be so many varieties of conflicts. Conflicts is difference in some or the other things. So it is inevitable. Because I used to think that if there is a conflict in relationship, that means it's a big red flag and I have to back off, or I have to think that, oh my god, this relationship is ruined and I need to look somewhere else. So it is important to react to conflicts in a healthy manner, and not take conflicts as a big red flag.
How important is marriage in the life journey?
I would, let's say, answer again politically correct. A healthy marriage, largely healthy marriage, is very essential in terms of can significantly contribute to your happiness and your longevity. We have a Harvard study that suggests, it is a very long study, around 80 years it was done, and it found out the parameters of what are the factors responsible for long-term happiness. So they found out that fulfilling relationships are the number one factor that contribute to your happiness. And if you have fulfilling relationships, and they clearly defined what is a fulfilling relationship. If you can call someone a 3 a.m. friend, you can count on some people that these are the people who will stand by me no matter what. That is fulfilling relationship. Now, it just doesn't exist, right? We have to put in a lot of effort into having such a relationship. It just doesn't happen to us. So all the qualities that are required, like patience, then sacrifice and delayed gratification, all these qualities are required to have a fulfilling relationship. If you are able to maintain a fulfilling relationship, which means you have these qualities, they collectively contribute to your happiness and also longevity. You will live longer if you have a fulfilling relationship. So instead of saying marriage per se, whether married people are happier or not happier, I would say people who have fulfilling marriage are much happier and they live longer. So whether or not you want to get married doesn't matter, right? What matters is whatever relationship you are into, how fulfilling is it, and can you make it more and more fulfilling?
Just to understand, according to you, when would you call a relationship to be toxic?
Toxic relationships is a knee-jerk reaction. Many times people say the relationship is so toxic, this person is toxic. So we don't have that term in the textbooks yet. So a toxic relationship can be poorly defined as a largely unhealthy relationship, right? Now, what are the parameters where we assess the health of a relationship, right? Number one, helpfulness. Is this relationship helping you achieve your long-term goals in the longer run, right? Your goals could be financial, emotional, sexual. It could be interpersonal goals, or it could be familial goals, anything, right? Is this relationship largely nurturing your goals or no? Or to what extent? Number two, distress. Is this relationship largely filled with a lot of distress? Do you have a lot of distress in this, or you have more happiness in it? And then, is it affecting your mental health? If it is affecting your mental health, I'm not saying that the other person is responsible for your mental health, but a relationship can significantly contribute to your mental health or mental ill health. So take a litmus test on this. Many parameters again: growth, distress, and overall health.
How do you, handle intense emotions when you are in relationship with someone? It could be a marriage, it could be you just a girlfriend, or it could be in any capacity. But how do you handle intense emotions?
I think very, very important question. Handling emotions is a crucial question in anything. It could be relationships, it could be at work, or it could be studies, any area of life. I would largely divide emotions into positive and negative emotions. Positive emotions are those that we want to experience over and over again, and negative emotions are those we don't want to experience, right? Now, further classification would be both of these types of emotions could be healthy and unhealthy. So let me give you an example of an unhealthy positive emotion. Let's say I'm super confident and I say that I can't fail at all in the exams, so let me not study. So you will say, like, this guy looks a little overconfident. So even if I feel good while having this emotion, it could still be unhealthy for me. So I may not study and I may actually fail. There could be unhealthy negative emotions, for instance, feeling depressed. I may feel depressed where I call myself as I'm not good enough, the future has no meaning, my life has no meaning, and so on. And that may significantly cause me distress, or it may be unhelpful to me. Now, this is unhealthy negative emotion. However, there could be a healthy negative emotion. For instance, I lost a relationship or a job, and I'm sad but not depressed about it. So I may be unhappy about the loss, but I may still want to work towards gaining it back or replacing it with something else, right? So there could be the emotions could be healthy, unhealthy. How to manage these? How to react to these? Identifying whether it's a healthy or unhealthy emotion is the first step. The second one would be regulating them. We cannot switch on, switch off emotions. In a similar manner, if there is an adversity that we are facing, you ask yourself, how much emotional upset would be necessary and sufficient to deal with this situation? You will find that many times you have an emotion that is more intense than it is needed, so you can downregulate it. Sometimes you may find that your emotion is not even sufficient to get the goal.
So basically, then how will you tell the audience, who are dealing with a lot of trauma in their relationships and they are not being able to let it go? So it's like a repetitive conflict because of the past traumas. Not in past relationship, in the same relationship only. There's some, you get hurt and then you can't let go of the hurt. So how will you advise to deal with those hurt or traumas so that there's a smooth journey, onward journey is smooth?
So there are two questions here. One is how to deal with a traumatic relationship, and another is how to deal with the hurt in the traumatic relationship. The first thing, in any relationship that you recognize that this is traumatic. Now, I'm not gonna split hair here, but let's understand that you have been convinced that the relationship is largely traumatic and not healthy. there could be only three options here. One, stay in the relationship and be miserable. Stay in the relationship and not be miserable. And quit the relationship. Right? For many people, quitting the relationship is not an option. For many, but not for all, right? And for those who do not want to consider the option of quitting the relationship, they may want to tell that, do I want to be emotionally miserable in the relationship or no? And if no, it is possible to be less upset about the whole thing. So one is a choice, taking whether you want to go ahead with the relationship, stay in it or no. And second would be, do you want to be miserable or you want to be less upset in it? And it is possible to respond with less emotional pain in the relationship. How is it possible? Imagine that if there were 100 people in the same relationship issue, will all of them be equally upset?
Everybody has different ways of, responding to a stimuli.
Correct. So there could be some people who are extremely pained by the same amount of adversity, and some people may have less pain. I often give the example of, let's say, this plant. This plant has a specific heat tolerance. If I were to bring a plant from, let's say, Kullu Manali or Switzerland here, it won't survive the heat of this city, right? So it has very less heat tolerance, but this plant seems to have a reasonable heat tolerance. And if I were to put a cactus here, it would have a high heat tolerance. In a similar way, everyone has different tolerance towards adversities. And this tolerance or endurance or resilience is what decides their emotional reaction. So this is the way we can respond differently by thinking differently and increasing our resilience, endurance, so that we have lesser emotional pain. Now, talking about hurt, as you mentioned, nobody can hurt you without your permission, or treat you unfairly, but they cannot hurt you. You have an option to be very disappointed but not hurt. Disappointment is a healthy alternative to hurt. And people who are hurt usually go through an unfair treatment where the other person has let them down. The other person did not meet the standards that you had set for them for how they should be treating you. There are essentially two types of thoughts when someone is hurt. One is, I must be treated fairly, and another one is that I cannot tolerate unfairness. So both these thoughts, although on a superficial level look very rational, logical, but they're not. You would like to be treated fairly. If we look at history, a lot of big names, whether they could be gods or they could be human beings, we see a history of unfair treatment. And this also means that in future, it is unlikely to go away. There will always be a chance that you can be treated unfairly. However, you wouldn't want to. Work on your thoughts after the triggers. The thoughts are usually, I can't tolerate it or it mustn't happen to me. The thoughts should be rather that I don't want it, but it's not a nature's law. It is uncomfortable, but it cannot kill me. So if you were to imbibe these thoughts, your endurance would go up and you would have largely adaptive or healthy reactions to unfairness or anything that happens in a traumatic relationship.
So what do you have to tell all those people who are currently, as we speak, they are struggling with love?
I think one of the things that I would like to tell these people who are struggling in a relationship is that do not make a relationship center stage of your life, right? A relationship is an important aspect of life.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shishir, for taking out time for this wonderful chat.
Absolutely amazing. It's always a pleasure.
Looking forward to connect with you more and have more such sessions.
Absolutely, anytime. Right. Thank you.
So it was almost like a therapy session for me, and thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned with us for more such videos. Thank you.